Hi everyone. Oh no, we are not going to have this issue today. Hi everybody, welcome. I'm 2 minutes late, I think. So I'm going to prop you up there just for a second. So I'm Jenna with Upward Ollie Creations. When you hop on, say hi. It's been an awful sewing day. Just simply awful. And I'm going to tell you why in a moment. There we go. So say hi when you're on. Hi Jody. How are you? I'm pulling myself up over here just in case. There we go. Okay. Hi Brenda. Hi Carolyn. It's been an awful sewing day. So I did get the hair finished. Look at that. Isn't that? So we're going to put a bow in her hair too. So a straight pin. Stabbing myself. Oh, you're fine, Jody. So here she is. See her face? Now I did add freckles. But that's what we did last night. And I finished the hair. Now the hair, I think some of you were confused about I'm clipping off strings because it's ripped fabric. So what I'm going to do is, let's sit her over here. So this is the muslin, just plain ordinary muslin. And you see I got it strips just cut on it. I know you all have seen ripping fabric, you know. Thank you. So as I rip it, I pull the strings off. Now I keep these, and if you've been following me, we have used these in projects. But as I get them, and I'm doing 2 at a time, I knot it. And I try to get the knot. Hi Joanne. Oh, thank you. I try to get the knot as close to the center as I can. If it's not exactly in the center, I don't sweat it. It's fine. But as I pull them off, now I keep these, and I tell you to keep these. And somebody that was watching Stella the other night, I guess I was watching too. I didn't hear her say it, but she said, yes, Jenna, I'm throwing the strings away. So we use these in projects. All the little tiny snippets of fabric that you know, most people throw away, like even smaller than this size, these tiny little snippets, these are called crumbs. And I throw all my threads and my crumbs in a container. Now I have a project coming up with this. I'm just waiting to get some more thread, which for me, that's, I gather lots of it, but I save all of that. And you know, little pieces that most people throw away. That's why Stella, she jokingly said, yes, Jenna, I'm throwing my string away. So that's why she said that. So see, that's not exactly in the center, but I'm okay with it. Now, if you're OCD and have to have it in the center, it's very easy to loosen that up. Just loosen it up and pull the knot down. Okay? So that's how I do it. And I have a basket that I keep this kind of hair that I make in. And if I have extra, I just leave it in the basket, because most of my dolls are just about the same. I have one that I use for yarn, and one I use for fabric strips. So when I get a whole basket full of all different color of fabric strips knotted for hair, I had used them on one doll, all different colors of hair. And actually, one year when I did shows, that was my most popular doll that had the crazy hair. And I dressed her in a crazy dress. So, yeah, you never know what the people coming through shows are going to like. So that's what I do. I do 2 at a time. Now, if my fabric is printed, I don't have any here. Now, this is not grunge, but we're going to cut some and do it, just so I can show you. How long do I make it? I just cut it off. You see, I don't measure. I just cut it off because the doll hair does not matter. So this is right side, out. Wrong side to wrong side. Hi, Janet. And I just make slits. Because this is only printed on one side. And see, there's your back side. When I rip this, I keep these wrong side, that's the back of the fabric, and both right sides, that's the pretty side of your fabric, out. And I knot it like that. So then when I go to put it on a doll, see the strips? The fabric is showing on both sides. And I just fold it and then I glue it on. So that's, you see a little bit of the back of the fabric, but you mostly see, hi Colette, you mostly see the print. So that's what I do. So I hope that answered your question. Let me get this and pin it so it doesn't unroll. Oops, I need the... So I'm sitting here today. I have 2 memory bears I need to finish before the 1st. So I thought, no big deal, I'll finish them today. Ugh, what a day of making bears. I have made the same pattern over 35 years. I can't tell you how many I've made. I wish I would have kept track. I'd have notebooks full. But today, I don't even follow the directions that I have written down anymore. I've done so many, I just do them. I can do them in my sleep. But for some reason today, I put the arms and legs on the back of the body instead of the front of the body. Hi, Crafting with Southern Belle. Hi, welcome. And I got the whole thing sewn together, ready to put the head on. I turned it right side out, and I thought, oh no. So I had to turn it wrong side out again, get this crazy thing that I don't like using out, and tear the whole thing apart. So instead of having both bears done today, I have one completely sewn together and the other one ready to be sewn. I was like, how could I have done that? So I had some questions. Now here's the little dress that we made last night. It's sewn, but I had questions about, I had said before you, let me turn you around here because you're going to fall over. Okay. If you want to add lace, and I grabbed some, just some, thin lace. If you want to add lace to, well, where did it go? See, I got so much stuff on this table right now, it's pitiful. Here we go. This is the dress we cut out. If you want to sew lace on, like this end of the sleeves or on the bottom of the skirt, I said too, before you sew from the wrist up to the shoulder and the underarm down to the bottom of the dress, I said to sew your lace on first. It is easier because once you get this sewn together, that's all the area you're going to have to put lace on it. And you're going to have a hard time getting this little bit of area. So let me open this up. This isn't sewn, but let me open it up. That underneath of your needle. It can be done. It's very tedious. And I want to show you an easier way. So I'm going to pin this. And I have one arm, it looks like a little bit longer than the other. See that? Just a tiny little bit. So I'm just going to trim that. Now that tiny little piece, you see that on the top of my scissors? That is usable. So I'm going to put it over there in my basket. And I will advertise when I do that project. Some of you have already seen me do a couple of them. So there's the dress. I'm just holding it together with the pins. We're going to work on the wrists. So let me get our little girl here. So here's our dress. We're going to make bloomers tonight. One of you didn't understand bloomers. So it's just right below her bum. Okay? And see, the wrist comes just a little over the hand, but we're going to gather it and put it up above that thumb. But we're going to put lace on her first, or on the dress. So I just have a lace. I picked this up, I don't know how many 100 years ago, from an estate sale I went to that it's all twisted, that a lady had passed away, and her family was selling her sewing supplies. So see, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this sleeve, and I'm only working on one sleeve at a time. Now I want this to hang down like that, but I'm going to sew it going the opposite direction. So that's how I'm going to sew it, just like that. Because once we get this sewn on, we're going to flip this, and then it's going to come down, and then the bottom of our sleeve is going to be hemmed. So I'm sewing it like this first. And I always leave just a little bit of lace overhang on my fabric. Can you see that there? Just a little bit. Because, see how this has so many designs in it? And see how when I cut this, it's short there. So I do it even with a flat lace. I leave a little bit of an overhang. And I'm going to pin this just so it holds there. And then when I trim it off, I'm going to leave a little bit of an overhang. See, just a little bit. So we're hemming this sleeve and putting the lace on at the same time. So if you're doing like a bunch of these, if you're doing a show, I would do all the sleeves at one time, and I would just feed them right through the machine at once. So I'll show you what I mean by that. If y'all have questions, please shoot them to me so I can go back over something and explain it a little bit better. Okay, we've got that one done. Let's do this one. Because I do not mind recapping. And every one of these videos this weekend will be on my YouTube channel, and it is at the top of the page. So you can go back and get them again. Hi, Jaretha. Hi, how are you? So see how we got both sleeves done. So we're going to do the back of the sleeve also, this very same way. Most of my laces, when I get them, especially new, most of them are white. I don't normally buy colors, but this is so old, it's already has a patina to it, so I did not grunge this. But you can grunge. If you like things very primitive, just grunge. Just add more instant coffee. So we're just going to keep trimming this, and then I'm going to show you what I mean by just putting it all through the machine. Do all the sewing at one time. It's called chain sewing. Now those of you who sew know exactly what I'm talking about. but we have a lot of people on here that never made a doll before. Hi, Donna. So we have all 4 sleeves done. Move all of this and pull the machine closer. I'm just using a straight stitch. And when I sew, I'm going to come up about 1/8 of an inch and make just a straight stitch. All the doll or the dress patterns were put on Telegram last night, so you can download those. And that link is on the top of the page too. So I'm going to stop and backstitch. But I'm putting the next piece of the dress right up underneath, just butting these 2 together. And I'm going to continue sewing. And I'm going to put this right under the needle. And when that needle is on this sleeve, that's when I'm going to backstitch. And this is called chain stitching. So if you're going to do a whole bunch of doll dresses, like for a show, this is how you chain stitch. Now we only have 2 pieces of the dress, but I'm going to swing this around. See, it's attached. See, it's attached. And I'm going to put it right up underneath of that needle. So the only time I'm going to cut is when I'm completely done. Now we still have the first one we put through, so I'm bringing it around, and it looks like it's all twisted there, doesn't it? But it's fine. So I'm just going to butt this one right up to that one and continue to sew. And this is what chain stitching is. You do all the sewing at one time. Now, if I was not doing this on a video with y'all, I would go ahead and just swing this around and start sewing the bottoms too. So we have just a thread between those 2. And see that thread right there? That's what I'm snipping. And they're all sewn at one time. That's what chain stitching is. So I've got these pins out, but our lace is going the wrong direction. So I'm just going to flip this over and then just do another stitch right along there. So we have our lace on and our sleeve is hemmed at the same time. Hi, Deborah. Hi, Teresa. So this, I don't need the pin because this is already sewn together. I just need to flip this around. See, I'm just folding it up. And it's about 1/8 of an inch. And we're going to sew these, and we're going to chain stitch these also. Same thing. I'm just going to flip this up just a little bit. See, the back. This is the bottom of the raw edge of the material. I'm going to just fold it under. See, that's what I'm doing. And we're going to do the same thing. Just butt this right up to that and sew. And back stitch once I get on that fabric. Hi, Kayla. How are you? Did you start your page yet? So I'm going to show you again. Do it this way. There's the back of the fabric. All I'm doing is just folding that up a little bit. So on this side, we have a hem. Oh, what are you sewing, Teresa? Barb usually sews when she's watching videos. And we're just going to continue. So we have to do this one. So I'm just folding it up. Oh, great. You'll have to share your page so we can get you out and get you followers. Did I do all 4? So all of our sleeves are now hemmed and they have lace on them. Oh, that's nice. We've made totes on here before too. So now we're going to put our 2 sides together. Now remember, the front is a little bit lower than the back. Now, one of you shot me a message and said, how are we getting this over her head? So, see, the back is a little bit higher than the front. So the back we're going to fold in half, match that neckline up, and we're going to make a slit about 2 inches, just like our clothes. So now we have a raw edge. We can't have a raw edge. I mean, if you're doing an extremely primitive doll, you definitely can have a raw edge. So I'm taking a piece of fabric, longer than this slit. I gotta trim this up to make it even. So let me just trim this up. Okay. We are putting right side to right side. Just going to match this up here, just like this, and put a pin. Bring this up and match it and put a pin. So that's what we have. Here's the fabric that we just put on here. We're going to sew that slit we just made. We're going to go down, across, and back up. And what we're doing is making a casing to put that slit in. So this is if you're not doing a primitive doll. If you're doing a primitive doll, you can leave that just the way, just that cut there. So I'm going down to the bottom of that slit, stopping, lifting my presser foot and turning this. Taking just a couple of stitches across, and you can just turn your hand wheel to do this. With the needle down, that's when you want to turn. So I'm turning, and oops, I need one more stitch. So that's 3 stitches I did. And then I'm sewing really close to that cut edge that's right there. I'm coming all the way to the top, and now I'm going to back stitch. So that's what we have. And there's the slit we made. So we're going to make that slit one more time on the fabric that we just sewed in. See, there's the strip we just sewed in. It doesn't have to be this big because we're going to trim that down. But we're going to cut that slit one more time. What we're doing is cutting right in between what we've already done, and we've cut that slit one more time. So I am going to trim up this fabric because we don't need that much. So a couple of you sent me a message and said you don't want prim dolls. You're going to do a dressy doll. So this is what you're going to do. So see, this is higher than the neckline. And we're just putting lace on this neckline. So we're going to trim that off. And all these little pieces are going into my crumb pile. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this in on itself. You see that? This is the right side of our fabric, and this is the wrong side of the fabric we just sewed on. We're just going to trim it up. Now we have slits here. See, we have that square? See that square that we sewed? We have to snip into those corners to make this turn right. See that? So now when we turn this, it's going to turn really nice, and I'm going to pin just to hold it so you can see. So I'm going to flip this all in to the back side. And I'm folding right on that seam that we made. See, I'm turning that. See, there's your seam. And now this is just going to fold on the inside. Now see how nice that looks? Whoops. If I had my iron on, I would press this in. Now see what a nice back that made. Now you can put a little button there. You can overlap it a little bit when you get it on your doll and sew it. I'm just going to put lace around her neck, so the lace is going to hold that together. So I'm just going to pull this in. But see how that lays once you snip those corners? Stuart's Rustic Design. Okay, everybody, head over to Stuart's Rustic Design and follow Kayla. She just started a page, and she does some really nice things. So I'm going to put this under my needle, and I'm just going to stitch really close to the edge. That's a nice name. I like that. So I'm just finger pressing. That's what I'm doing because I don't have my iron on. It's out of water, and I didn't bring any in here. And it hisses and makes all kinds of noises without water. It's yelling at me. So I'm just going to take this and put it right under the needle, and I'm going really close to the opening. So when I get to the bottom of the opening, I will stop and turn it. That's right, everyone needs to go give her a follow, especially new creators. It is so hard to get started. And this is my second page, and the second page is even harder to start than the first one. So I'm making sure that the bottom of that slit, that fabric is tucked down inside of there. Hi, Crafting with Southern Belle. What is your name? And I'm going to turn it. When you turn your fabric, like you're going around the slit like this, always make sure your needle is down. It just makes everything easier. Hi, Deborah. Easier to turn. So I'm tucking that little bit of fabric on the bottom of that slit inside. And I'm coming to the top. Now you will listen to different people that sew, and everybody will give you a different rule of thumb, and it's their rule of thumb about back stitching. I know a lot of people, because I'm going to sew lace on the top of this, they would not have back stitched here. I back stitch everything because first off, it's just a little bit more security in your sewing. And if you go pulling on whatever you're making and it's not back stitch, your stitches could start coming out. So I back stitch everything. Hi, Debbie. Aw. So there. That is how we're going to get this slit is how we're going to get this dress over that doll's head. So let's put our two pieces together. Now when I get down to this lace, now it's just overhanging a little bit on the material. I'm just going to sew straight down it. Now if you have a really open weave lace, you can stop and put a piece of tissue paper for packages up underneath of your lace, and then it'll go right over your feed dogs, and then you just rip the paper off. So I'm just going to line this up, and I'm just going to put some pins this way. That way I won't have to stop and take them out, because I do not sew over pins. Every time I sew over a pin, I break a needle. And what I'm doing is just lining all of this up. So I had the worst sewing day that I have had in a long time. A long time. And I was like, oh man, I got a video tonight. I hope that I don't have all these issues on the video. So on the bottom here, we can do the same thing on your hem. We can put lace. And I'm going to do it the same way I did the sleeves. Overhang a little bit. Now this is much wider opening. You can sew it and then put the lace on. It won't be hard to get that opening under your presser foot. But since one of you, or a couple of you actually, so what do you mean when I said you could do this last night? So I hope the ones of you that are really new to sewing, and you've been sending me messages, I want to make a doll. I hope all these videos are helping you. And shoot me messages if I say something that you don't understand, because like I said, I have been sewing since 7th grade, which is a really long time ago. So sometimes I do things without thinking. So I'm just making sure my lace isn't tangled. Hi, Regina. No, you're never late. You're never late. So we're working on the doll dress that we made last night. So I'm going to sew this and do the same thing. I'm going to flip it so it's hemmed and it has lace on it, all in one step. So when you're doing things, I don't know if some of you are doing shows or you're going to do shows, you want to find as many shortcuts as you possibly can. And this is definitely one of them, hemming and sewing your lace on at the same time. Now you don't need to do lace, you can do ruffles, you can buy pre-ruffled fabric, you can make your own. $50 years? I always say I've been sewing 600 years because sometimes that's the way I feel. Jody makes fun of me when I say that. They were making fun of me last night. Jody and Stella were making fun of me last night because I said 600 years I was sewing. Yeah, I will be out of school 46 years. 46 years. So that is really hard to believe. We're having a class reunion actually Saturday, and which I'm not going to this one. But I was like, oh my gosh, that many years. Then I think, well, yeah, your oldest is 44, so yeah, you've been out of school a long time. And then my mom just had 89th birthday the end of July, and I was like, oh man, how old is my oldest brother? He's old. So I'm just going to sew this on exactly the same way we just did. That one little piece doesn't want to, there we go. So I'm just going to bring the other side of this around. See how I'm flipping it? I'll match up my edges and just do chain stitching, just like I did for all of the sleeves. When I get on that fabric, I'm going to backstitch. And my lace, I think, got pulled down into the... Nope, it didn't. It wasn't... The feed dogs wasn't progressing it, so I'm not sure what happened there. So we're just going to start it again. Let me cut this so we can get it all straight again. So I'm sitting here sewing today. Now y'all can see, right there's the shed. There's like maybe 4 or 5 feet between that window and the shed. So I'm sitting here. And I'm mad at myself because I got to rip this whole teddy bear apart. And I thought I was going to have them both done today. And I was going to sit with my grandson and tonight and stuff them and embroider their faces and all that kind of fun stuff. I look up. When I go to put the arms back underneath in the machine, I look up and there's someone standing right there staring at me. I came up out of this chair, went out the back door because it's just right there, and started screaming at him. I'm like, what are you doing? Had I thought for a second, my phone was sitting here, I would have snapped a picture of him. I was like, a peeping Tom. Here. It's like, oh my gosh. Well, I went out the back door screaming at him. He just stood there and looked at me. I thought, is he on something? Then a guy that was fishing right here at the lake, he heard me yelling. So he came up, and whatever language he speaks, he was yelling at the guy in his language. So then the guy just casually walked right around the shed and left. So that guy thought that he hurt me somehow. So he came up and he said, are you okay? I said, yes, but he was standing there staring in the bedroom window. And this is a bedroom. It's like, oh my gosh. So now I guess I got to sew with my curtains closed. He just casually walked around the shed. He just went around. See, right there, that's the front of the shed where the goose is. Can you see him? And he just walked right around the shed and walked away. It's like, oh my God. Now, what am I doing? I'm resewing what I've already sewed. Is both of those sewed? Yes. I'm talking and not paying attention. So I told him, I said, you know, the police station is only 2 minutes down the road. They can be here in 2 minutes, and I will have you arrested. He just walked away. I was like, I never had that problem before because I always lived in apartment buildings and I was always on an upper floor. Yeah, and my sewing rooms have always been on a second floor, but this doesn't have a second floor. And my brain was not thinking at all because I was mad at myself for sewing a bear backwards. I still don't know how those arms and legs fit on that body backwards. So there we go. So it is hemmed and it has lace on it. Had I thought, I would have grabbed my you-know-what and went out the back door. Not that I would have done anything unless he came toward me, but to scare him. I don't think it would have scared him because he just stood there. When I jumped up, if he had his right mind, he would have took off running, but he didn't. He just stood there. So I was late picking Tony up from work. So now he ordered cameras to go with the rest of our security system to put out on the shed. It's like, oh my gosh. So see, I just sewed right over top of that. Sometimes when you put multiple layers of open weave lace together, it will sew if you have an issue. Like I said, put tissue paper over your feed dogs. That's these rough little things you feel under the presser foot on the bottom. Those are called feed dogs. Put a piece of tissue paper there and your lace will go right under it. I always use tissue paper when I'm sewing tulle. Tulle is for some reason, something I have an issue with. I don't know what that guy thought I was going to see me sitting here at a sewing machine just sewing. Well, I was going to. So I told my husband if I see him again in this yard at all. Now, one yard's connected to the other. We don't have an HOA, but we have something like an HOA. We're not allowed to put up fences. But next year, I told Tony every opening in the back of this house is going to have a raised garden bed or a vegetable bed. That way no one can come in the back of the yard. Because we're allowed to do that. We're just not allowed to put up fences. Now I'm at this point of the sewing. Now you can sew straight and then down. I'm going to curve it. I hope he doesn't come back to Georgina. Well, if he does, my husband's going to be upset about it too. So I'm just going to curve it. But this is an inside curve. Even though I'm going to curve this sewing, this stitch, I'm still going to have to make slits in that inside curve to make this all the seams to lay flat. So I'm just going to I'm turning this speed way down. And I always turn it way down when I'm doing a curve like this. And I'm just guiding the fabric to make that turn. And this has a flared skirt on it. So I'm going to stop here to make sure all my lace is laying flat. Because lace, if you've ever tried to take stitches out of lace that you have sewn, it is a nightmare because they disappear. So see, we have, can you even see those stitches? We have an inside curve. So to make this lay flat, I'm making one cut from the corner here up to the right to the stitches. Now I'm making 3. I always make 3. See that? I still sometimes, when I'm doing those little slits, I cut my stitches, just put it back on and just sew right on the other side. It happens. Why did you guys get really blurry? I think because I had you too close. The camera is saying, wait a minute, what are you doing? And I'm doing the same thing here. And as long as you turn your fabric as your needle is going, it will glide right along with you. If you have a problem, slow your stitches way, way down. So again, I'm cutting right up to the stitches, and I'm making 3 cuts. Now we're going to pull our pins out and we're going to turn this little dress. One of you asked me why I always squeeze what I'm sewing. I sew for so many people, and I'm always fearful of leaving a straight pin in. So if I do this, if there's a straight pin there, it's going to stab me. I would rather it stab me than my customer. So that's why I always do this. So let's flip this. Whoops, let's cut our strings. Cut our threads. We don't need them hanging down. Now, if you want to make, take tulle and make a skirt to go underneath of the dress, you can do that also. It's the same way that we did the skirt on the other dress yesterday. Figure out where you want your waist to be and how long you want it to be. And then tulle, when I do that, I just cut my strip. I do it double the diameter of my doll's waist, and I just do a running stitch with just thread and pull it and tie it, because tulle you don't have to hem. It won't ravel. So just find wherever you want your waist to be and how long do you want it to be. So that's how you do tulle. Now if you're going to make like a ballerina skirt, you can take elastic, the diameter of your doll's waist minus an inch. And then you can tie your tulle on that elastic, wrap it around your doll's waist. That's a very quick and easy way to make a little tulle skirt if you're making like a ballerina. So I'm just pulling all this lace out. This lace has some fringe. See it? So I'm making sure that it's all pulled out. So because this lace has a lot of weave to it, open weave, I'm not going to use anything to push this sleeve out. I'm just going to work it out like this. Otherwise, I would have taken a skewer, a dowel rod, something, and pushed it all out. So see how nice with those slits under that arm, how nice that's laying? Otherwise, it would have been all bunched up, and you would never, even ironing, would you ever have gotten that to lay flat. So there's the little dress. We're going to make bloomers. Now the bloomer pattern is the same, let me get my pattern out here, as the pants. So there's the pant pattern that I shared last night. Okay, so take your paper, because when you print it out, this is what you have. And then this one's not marked. Let me get a pen. On your pattern, there is a line right there. So it says to cut a triangle out of your pattern, out of your fabric. That's what it makes your legs. Now when you're doing your bloomers, there's her waist. We don't want these to come all the way down to her ankle. I want them to come about right below her knee. So I'm saying right there. So I'm just going to make a line right there. Now you can have the bloomers go all the way to the bottom if you want. I don't want them all the way to the bottom. I think they're cute when they go all the way to the bottom. It's like more of a little Victorian doll. So I'm taking muslin. You don't have to use muslin. You can use any fabric you want. Let me unfold this. I have a whole bolt sitting here on my lap. I should have cut this first. So this is the fold. It says to cut on this fold. So I'm placing it on the fold of the fabric. Now the whole leg is going to be on the fold when you cut this out. But you have to just make that tiny little triangle cut. So I want these folded right there. So that's how I'm cutting. So normally I would just cut this, but because y'all are, some of you are new, I'm going to pin it. So you can cut 2 of these patterns out and do one for bloomers and one for pants. Or you can just fold it like I'm doing. So I'm going to pin it on. Now you need 2 of these because you need a front and a back, right? Oh, thank you. I love this fabric. I'm going to Google Lens it to see where if I can get some more. This fabric I got from Pretty Pieces from Michelle. She had a fat quarters sale last week, and I bought some of these fat quarters, but I think it's so pretty. It could be Christmas fabric. So I'm going to Google Lens that so I can get some more. So I'm unfolding this because, you know, your fabric is folded when you buy it. It's 2 pieces. So it's folded. So I'm cutting it on the fold of the fabric. So I'm just going to cut this right here. And I'm just going to fold it over. And I'm going to cut 2 of these at once. So I'm just making sure my folds are all lined up. So I'm going to take my pins and put it through all the fabric. So I have 4 pieces of fabric. Because it's folded, I have 4 pieces of fabric lined up here. Now these bloomers or the pants is going to be bigger than your doll's waist. I don't like form-fitting clothes on my dolls. Hi, Deborah. So I'm just going to cut this. And then we're going to stitch it. And then I do a gathering stitch around the waist to gather this. Now, you can do elastic. We haven't gotten that far. I'm trying not to make things too complicated for the new sewers here. So we have 2 pieces. Now when I open this up, I'm going to have, let me open it, just a piece of fabric. See that? So on our pattern, it says to cut, and it's just a very slight angle. I don't know why this is folded with, on this fold, there's a pleat. The fabric was folded that way. So I'm going to lay this down, and I'm lining up this straight edge with the fabric and my pattern piece. And see, I'm only cutting up to this line. So I tried to make the patterns very simple, not complicated. So if you are new, you can make this doll. This camera is in my way to see. See how much fabric I'm cutting off of there? That's all I'm cutting, and I'm cutting straight up to that line. See? That's all I cut, that little tiny edge, but I cut it at an angle, just like the pattern is. So now we have a front and back. So the same way that we put the lace on the dress, if you want lace on the bottom of these, do it the very same way. Well, if I could grab that piece of fabric, there we go. So we have our bloomers. Thank you for sprinkling. I greatly appreciate that. So I'm just going to make sure my ends is all lined up. Normally I would not pin. Once you've been sewing for all the years that I've been sewing, you learn to do things without the pins. But I know some of you need your pins. Oh, a snake eating your eggs, chicken's eggs. Oh, mercy. So I'm going to even this out. Deborah the snake fighter. So I'm just doing a straight stitch. We have not done anything but a straight stitch. That is all the sewing that we've been doing. There's no zigzags, nothing. I'm going to take this off my lap now. So we did fingers last night, and you do the toes the very same way. Now depending on how long this takes us to get the total thing made, and it does not take this many hours to do it all. I'm just showing a lot of steps and doing a lot of explaining why you do things certain ways. But you actually could sit down in a couple of hours and do this doll. The whole complete thing. Now I could sit down and do one of my memory bears, my basic memory bear. I have more complicated ones that I do. I can do one of those in about 2.5 hours, except for today, because I sewed everything wrong. So if you sew everything the way it should be sewn, you know, and don't have to get out that little devil's seam ripper, you should be good. But that thing was too involved in my sewing today. And we'll pull this apart because I got to fold. Now I could have taken that out with the iron. Now if you don't have an iron, because I mentioned an iron several times through these videos. Do you have a flat iron? You can use that also, just like you do your hair. I could have taken that seam or that pleat out that's pressed in there just by putting my flat iron over this, and it will press your fabric too. So I'm not going straight across here. I'm doing a curve to go down the other side of the leg. And we're going to do the same thing cutting into that, the crotch of these. We're still going to make those little slits. Oh, you're fine, Jody. So I'm going to cut right up to, so that when we turn this, it will turn and lay flat. So I am using black embroidery floss so y'all can see it. If I was doing this doll, otherwise I would not be using black embroidery floss. I would be using a white or a cream color. But I want you all to see what I'm doing. We're going to start calling Deborah the snake fighter. And I'm only using one strand. So I'm going to knot this I'm going to show you again. Take your thread, lay it over your finger, and hold it with your thumb. Wrap your thread completely around. Now I'm holding the tail with my thumb and roll it across the part you're holding, and you got a knot. So let's do it again. Lay it down, hold it with your thumb, wrap your thread around. Now when you bring it around, bring this end close to what you already have on your finger and roll it, and then just slide it down and you got your knot. If my home ec teacher saw us making a knot any other way, she took points off of our grade for that day. She was tough, but she was a seamstress. Her husband had a furniture store in town. She made all his suits, all of his shirts, everything. So she was a really good seamstress. She made all her clothes. But man, was she finicky about how you tied your thread. So the front and the back is exactly the same. So I'm just going to say this is facing me, this is the front. And I'm going to go a little bit past the center, and I know that's the center because that crease is already there from the fabric, and I'm just going to do a running stitch. I'm not doing real big stitches, but I'm not doing tiny ones either, because this is just going to hold this around her waist. And I knotted this because see how I'm pulling this? If I didn't have a knot there, that would come completely through and I'd have to start over again. And I've done that more times than I can tell you. So when you're making your first doll, don't be hard on yourself. If yours doesn't look like mine, it's because it's your first doll. I've been doing this since 7th grade. And I am 64 years old. So that is a ton of dolls. Yep, we all do it. I still do it. I still do it. So please give yourself grace. It's your first doll. So I have a tail. I want that tail to be longer, so I'm going to pull this through. And I always leave longer tails. Now, I've been told that I waste too much thread, I waste too much fiber fill, I stuff things too tight. This is my way. When you do yours, you can do it your way. And every creator you watch is going to do something a little different. Now, around her bottom, I'm saying that's the center, and I'm going to do a running stitch, just like I did the waist. Yep, 600 years. You're right, Jody. That's how long I've been doing all this. So you want a tail, because when we put these on her, we're going to tighten these around her waist and around her legs. So you need to have a tail so that you can tie it, because we're going to tie it in a knot. Now you can do this with really thin ribbon that looks really cute too. So when you start your doll, what look do you want your doll to be? If you want it primitive, then do things more primitive. If you want more of a fancier doll, then do things more fancier. Like instead of using embroidery floss, use ribbon. 1/8 inch ribbon looks really cute, and you can do this with 1/8 inch ribbon. Say that 3 times fast. So just like today, I have made thousands of these memory bears. Literally thousands. I'm not joking. And I'm always sitting here doing a memory bear for somebody or a memory animal. Lately, people's been wanting more than bears. But today, I sewed the 2 pieces of the body together and put the legs going on the back of the body. So I had to rip the whole thing apart. And I can do these bears in my sleep. So when you're doing yours, give yourself grace, because why I did that today, I have no idea. But I was so upset with myself. It's like, how did they even match up right? I don't know. But I was able to do it. If it can be done, I will do it. So they're just primitive bloomers. Say it once. So her feet. We can paint them black, paint the shoe on. You can trace her foot on a piece of fabric that's and cut it just a little bit bigger than her foot and make a shoe out of that. Slide it over. Do I have fabric here that we can do that with? I have bare fabric sitting here. Can't use that. That's customer. Let's just grab this red and white. I got 3 bolts of this when Joann's was going out of business for $2 a yard. I got 3 bolts of it. Because normally for doll legs, that's what I buy this for, is doll legs. And I grunge it. But for $2 a yard, yeah, I can do this. So let me cut a strip of fabric. Okay, I have my fabric. I'm going to do it on the wrong side. That's the back side of your fabric. There's your pretty side. Now I'm putting these together. And I'm going to lay her leg on there. Just like that. And I'm going to do this in pen so you can see it. So I'm saying right there, that's the ankle. So that's where I'm going to start, and I'm holding this up. Otherwise, I would do it on a table. And I would just trace right around. I'm going to have to lay it down. Yeah, you can see it. And I'm going to run the pen. The pen is touching her leg. And I'm just going to trace all the way around her foot. Can you see that? Maybe not. Okay, so when I cut this out, I'm going to cut it bigger. So right there is her ankle. So I'm going to cut it bigger. I needed more fabric here, but you're going to get the gist of it. So I'm going about 1/4 inch bigger. And then we're going to sew it. So normally I would do this with felt. So you can match her shoes with felt, whatever color you're pulling out of your dress. So here again, you want to snip all your curves. Just because it's a shoe and we have hardly any fabric there, snip your curves. Now on felt, I have found that you don't need to really do this. Just clip your extra felt on the outside of your stitches and it will lay flat. Snip the threads. Let's turn this. Hi Barb, how are you? So I'm showing how we can make shoes. I don't know how long you've been on here. So there's all kinds of ways that you can make shoes, but this is one way. So hopefully, if we get all of this stuff done by Friday, I'm going to do a recap, answer all kinds of questions, and then show some other ways, like another shoe you can make. And slide this up on her foot. But you can paint her painted shoes look fine. That's what 99% of the time I do. And I usually just paint them black. She's got a big foot here, so we need to get it down through there. Taking a break from your sewing machine. Well, I've been at this one since 8 o'clock this morning, so that it needed to be a little bit bigger. But you slide it down over. This wasn't something I had planned on showing tonight, but we're going to push her big foot down in there. Once I get the foot down into this part, we're going to be okay. Barb, Deborah's been killing snakes. Saving her chicken eggs. Okay, Jenna. My granddaughters talked me into letting my nails grow, and I think they're the biggest hindrance ever. I don't know how y'all that have those real big long fingernails do it. So we have it on her foot. So then I would take embroidery floss and do laces. So this is only one way of doing a shoe. And I'm only putting the embroidery floss, the needle, through the striped fabric, not into her foot. And leave a tail. So then I'm crossing this. I should have started at the top, so we have laces at the top. So we're going to go across the top of the shoe. And I'm holding this because it's not knotted. And I'm crossing over the thread, just like you were doing shoes. But I'm only sewing the red fabric. And I'm crossing over and I'm going back up. I can't see. There we go. So we're just crossing the thread over. And then tie it off. So that's one way you can do a shoe. But I would make the fabric a lot bigger than I did. So we're just going to leave it there for now. We're going to put her bloomers on. But felt is really nice to use for shoes. She doesn't have a big backside, but these pants are having a hard time going up over them, just like mine. So then I'm just going to take the two tails and just pull it. And I'm pulling it a little tighter. Oh, wow. Yeah, you got to stop that from getting your eggs. You won't have any. And I'm going to knot this. And then I'm going to knot it one more time. That way, I know it's not going to come undone. And then we can straighten out these pleats. That gather all the way around. Now her leg, I don't want these to be long bloomers. I want them to be shorter. So see, they're going right below the knee. That's the knee that we sewed in. On Friday too, I'm going to show you, somebody asked, I said when we did the knees about using a bead for the knee and the elbow. On Friday, I'm going to show you that. Because I have lots of dolls parts in this tote here, so we can just pull out another arm and leg and do it. So if you do a lot of dolls, whether you sell them on Etsy, you do shows, whatever, the best way I found out when I had the store and I did shows every weekend from August all the way through mid-December. Every weekend I had a show. I would sit down with a bolt or a couple bolts and the different size doll patterns that I wanted to make, and I would spend a day cutting all the patterns out, and I would have different baskets for different sizes, and then I would sit down a day and just start sewing, and I would sew all the doll parts together and throw them in a tote. And then when I needed a doll, all I had to do was go to that tote, pull out the parts I needed, and I still do that, and I don't do shows anymore. But there's her bloomers. Now you can make these much wider. If you like them really gathered, just make them much wider. Hi, Julie. How you doing, girl? So there. We got her doll. We have her bloomers. We have her dress. We have the lace sewn on. So I showed you how to sew the lace and hem it all in one step. But if you're doing a primitive doll, most of them are not hemmed. They actually have a ripped edge. So we did that back. So that answers that question. Now we're still going to have a problem putting it over her head. But you don't want this neckline to be so big that when you finally get it over her head, that it's hanging clear down here. Because that's what's going to happen. So those of you that missed want to know how to sew the lace on and hem at one time, just go back. I got all kinds of thread tails that I need to cut off. But there you go. So we're going to put a bow in her hair. Oops, let me move you up. This bolt of fabric's pulling the camera down. Let me get rid of it. Throw it over there. I throw everything on the floor and then I clean up afterwards. Look at all my thread. Everything goes on the floor. So that's where we're going to end today. Hi, Kelly. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. We're going to make a bow to put up in her hair. Or we could do a headband too. Headbands look cute. So God bless all of you. Have a wonderful night. I will see you 2:30. Well, we went over an hour again. So I'm going to have one of you put a stop on here. Or set a timer. God bless you. 2:30 tomorrow. I'll be back on. And we're going to finish this little girl up. And so we have covered a ton of stuff since Monday. Oh, yes, Julie. Hi, Lisa. Thank you. See, somebody wanted to do multiple color hair. Well, look how cute that is. It's just muslin and red and white striped. And this is one of the faces that's on the reference pattern that I shared. All the patterns are on Telegram. And they're free use patterns, which means you can use them however you want. If you do it, just give me credit that it's my pattern. God bless you. Have a great night.